Alright folks, so this is a side of myself that doesn't get to play on this YouTube channel a whole lot, and that is the sitcom loving side. Yeah, I am a huge sitcom fan, I love a good canned laughter show, and my favorite sitcom of all time just happens to be How I Met Your Mother. I was introduced to the McLaren's gang a few years ago. Yeah, Ted, Barney, Marshall, Lily, Robin, and ever since I was first introduced to them, I have binge watched this show all the way through so many times, it's probably unhealthy. I have quotes memorized, I have favorite moments. It's really insane how well I know that show. So now we have a spin-off on Hulu, the first season of which just wrapped up a couple days ago. So I figured, alright, why not make a video on it? How I Met Your Father, Season 1. So How I Met Your Father is a spin-off of How I Met Your Mother, and it more or less follows the same formula. For those of you who haven't watched How I Met Your Mother, it's about a father telling his kids the story of how he met their mother. Although throughout most of the show, we don't actually know who the mother is. So here in How I Met Your Father, it's pretty much the same deal, except they did actually give it a little bit of a twist. We do have the future mother telling her son the story of how she met his father, except this time we actually see the mother instead of the kid. So she's telling her son, who she sees on her TV screen, she's telling him the story in the year 2050. And so, like How I Met Your Mother, the majority of the story is told via flashbacks, which take place in the present day. And actually, to switch it up again, in the pilot episode, she actually says, yeah, that was the night I met your father. But she still doesn't say who it is. So the guys we meet in the pilot, we're left guessing, ooh, which one is it? That's actually pretty intriguing, cause yeah, I'm curious. And so we have young Sophie, played by Hilary Duff. Yes, that is Lizzie McGuire herself. She's looking for love in New York City, and she has her crew of friends that she hangs out with, which, you know, is pretty par for the course in sitcoms these days. It's all about that group of friends that lives usually in New York City, or Pasadena, in the case of The Big Bang Theory. And they navigate their lives, you know, in careers and love, all that good sitcom jazz. So let's go over the characters. Sophie Tompkins is interesting. I mean, Hilary Duff is very likable. You want to root for her because, well, it's probably due to nostalgia at this point because you remember watching Lizzie McGuire as a kid. But also, I mean, there's nothing wrong with her. She has her quirks, yeah, but she's alright. Then we have her best friend and roommate, Valentina, who's pretty much the Marshall to Sophie's Ted. She's really fun, you know, she's the spunky one. And starting at the beginning of this season, she is in a relationship with Charlie. Now, Charlie just moved to New York City from Britain, and he came from a really uppity, hoity-toity kind of life. You know, I guess he came from a wealthy family. But he moved to New York to be with Valentina, and I will say he does have some pretty funny moments. It did take a few episodes for him to really grow on me, but he did grow on me. He ends up taking a job at the bar Pemberton's, which is the usual bar where the friends hang out, so I like seeing him as a bartender. Then we have the guys in the show. The main guy in the show, I would say, is Jesse. Now, Jesse is just coming off of a serious relationship where he proposed to his girlfriend, but she turned him down in a viral proposal fail video, so he's kind of the laughingstock of the town, but he's actually a good guy, you know? He's a musician, he's a school teacher, and, you know, the season tries to build up Sophie and Jesse as a couple. They become good friends, and, you know, they start to really like each other. It's basic classic sitcom season 1 stuff. So watching that, I was like, alright, we're par for the course here. My favorite character, though, has to be Jesse's best friend, Sid, because he's like the down-to-earth bro chill dude. I don't know, I really like his attitude. He's the one I'd probably want to hang out with the most. Now, Sid owns the bar Pemberton's, which is the bar where the crew hangs out. So he's the one who hired Charlie to be a bartender. And he is engaged to his college girlfriend, Hannah. So they're planning their wedding. Actually, they want to have 2 weddings, one in New York, one in New Delhi, where Sid is from. Problem is, Hannah actually has a job on the other side of the country in California. She's a surgeon, so they are struggling to keep it together, which I won't lie, yeah, that is interesting to watch for me anyway. Cause I like Sid, he's so likable, and Hannah's pretty cool too, so you do want things to work out for them. The last character in the main crew is Ellen. Now, Ellen is Jesse's adopted sister. She just moved to New York because she and her wife were divorced, so now she's single and she's looking for women to date. And actually, this is where some of my problems with this show start to come in, because I hate to say it, but the actress who plays Ellen, I don't think she's that great. I don't know, just something about the way she delivers her lines, I'm like, she looks like she's acting in a school play or something. She just doesn't seem believable to me. I think she did get better as the season went along, but when the show was first starting out, I was like, yeah, she's not that good, her lines aren't that good. I mean, I'll get this out of the way. This first season of How I Met Your Father, not nearly as good or as funny as the first season of How I Met Your Mother. I never really laughed out loud or belly laughed at anything this season. I chuckled pretty hard at a couple of things. That was cool. But ultimately, I don't think the writing was nearly as good. And I get that this show is not trying to be like a carbon copy of How I Met Your Mother. The characters are completely different. You don't have a character who's like a complete playboy who sleeps around like Barney Stinson, which in the sitcoms I have watched all the way through and loved, they all had a character like that. Cheers had Sam Malone, Friends had Joey Tribbiani, The Big Bang Theory had Penny, and How I Met Your Mother had Barney. This show doesn't have that. Now, I'm not saying a good sitcom needs that, I'm just saying it's different than what I'm used to. But as the season went on, I did end up warming up to these characters. I like them, they do work really well together, they have good chemistry. Sophie is like Ted Mosby, you know, she's looking for love. She wants to find her happily ever after. It's just different points of view because the main character is a woman instead of a man this time around. And so you do get that sense of, oh yeah, men and women see love life very differently. I mean, I guess it all comes down to your specific wants and needs, but I'd say that's really the biggest thing that separates this show from How I Met Your Mother, is the atmosphere and tone, the vibe. It does feel very different, which I will give it props for that, honestly. This show could have just relied on How I Met Your Mother fan service. You know, like, oh, here's Easter eggs since it takes place in that same world. Here's a bunch of stuff from How I Met Your Mother. Oh, fan service, you remember? I remember. This show doesn't do that. It relies on its own story and characters and jokes to carry it through, and I appreciate that. That being said, not all of it landed with me, and there were some points where I was like, alright, this is the same world, right? Can we get some Easter eggs? I mean, the show is not completely devoid of Easter eggs. In the pilot episode, we actually see that Jesse and Sid live in the same apartment that Marshall and Ted and Lily lived in the early seasons of How I Met Your Mother. You know, the one with the swords on the wall. I saw that and I was like, oh my god, the nostalgic music's kicking on. The theme music in the show is the same theme as How I Met Your Mother. Ba 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 ba. But the show isn't reliant on those Easter eggs, and that's cool. So in the end, How I Met Your Father Season 1 is alright. Again, nowhere nearly as good as How I Met Your Mother Season 1, but the show has grown on me with its characters. I like them all. I like their quirks, I like their chemistry, I like the setting. I do hope it gets better as the seasons go on, and I am hoping for more Easter eggs as well. Like, I want to see someone drink a Warmpus. I want to hear someone mention the wedding bride. I guess we'll see. I'm holding out hope for this show. I hope it gets really good. Cause honestly, this is the very first sitcom where I'm actually watching it as it's airing. Yeah, this is a first for me, so it's exciting. So, How I Met Your Father Season 1. Have you watched it all the way through yet? What do you think about it? And have you watched How I Met Your Mother all the way through? What do you think about that? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Happy St. Patty's Day!